So the final home run man was after that moment, and when they were counting, they had to walk back down to this across the parking lot. And one of the candidates, who's not even supposed to be on location, walks up and meets three poll watchers. And they do it directly under a high definition camera with audio. And they detailed how they had been cheating and telling him he was going to win to the point that, like, she said, this is how many votes total, and we're good. They can't win. So I called that attorney back. I let my incumbent, the lame duck period, board president know. The attorney is just like, hey, like, let me figure out what's going on here, you know? But like the next day after, the lawyer was like, I've filed something with the DA's office. They may reach out to you. I've let them know. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to call. So I call the DA, which is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I'm super naive back then, man. Like, I don't know the game. I'm like, hey, can I talk to the DA? And they're like, no. Like, you're never going to get to the DA because it's a big county, right? And I'm like, well, this is what I got. This is why I'm calling. I need somebody. So I get a call back from an investigator who then just like, I need to meet with you ASAP.
Erik Holt, welcome to the show, man. Your story is a wild one. You've had some success recently, getting on some pretty big shows. Andy Stump, congratulations on that. That's great for your message to get out there. Really glad that Adam Dorito made intros with us. I found out that talking to you, we have some things in common. We know a few people. We both worked for the same organization for a little bit, probably at the same time. But man, I'll say this without saying the name of that organization, and I don't want to like out you either. I feel like the state of California, and specifically some of these organizations, are part of a massive money laundering scheme personally, but I have no real hard evidence of that, just my experience and the circumstantial things that I've seen and what has happened, and more specifically what hasn't happened. I'll just put it that way. But I don't know, has that been your assessment too while working for this organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think without going into detail, it gives it away. But yeah, I mean, you know, you have federal money that pours in, and this organization takes over half of it before they spread it out. And you always ask, where's that going? And there's never an answer, right? Oh, there's this new program or this new Spanish-speaking organization that disseminates all of it out, and it's all BS, man. It's
It
like,
is.
yeah, I can't watch hundreds of millions of dollars go to converting some pamphlet to Spanish. You know what I mean?
That's a lot of
Dude,
bananas and rice. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, though.
well, it's frijoles and rice out here, I guess. I don't know,
well,
but
yeah,
no,
good point.
Yeah.
it's something, man. I agree with you though. That's what you just said. That's a question I ask myself often. We were having a conversation at work today about something that's going to cost an obscene amount of money when it shouldn't in any way, shape, or form. And both my manager and I looked at each other like, "Yep, that's insane." And there's no way that that's going to cost that much money. And I always think that and I'm not exactly among a lot of like minds over there, so I just tend to keep with some of my opinions of myself. There's a couple of homies over there. Most of them are vets, put it that way, and we tend to have private conversations in areas away from other people. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, though. Some fraud that's actually provable, right? With some hard evidence, and I think that I can speak for everybody when I say that this is a big problem in our country. It's not just some of these states that are in the news right now, like Minnesota, California. Obviously, it is probably in every single state to some degree. I think some states more than others, right? But yeah, let's talk about that, Erik. Let's talk about where you're from first. Let people get to know you, and then let's jump into how you wound up in this position.
Right on. Well, yeah, I grew up in Northern California, not the coastal crazy California, but like gold country cattle ranches, small town rural America,
Right.
very conservative part of the state. And, I obviously grew up in a good community, I guess we'll say, and joined the Army. I mean, I was a post 9/11 graduate out of high school, right? So everybody that always asks me, how'd you end up in the military? Well, I was an idiot. But like we were post 9/11. I watched that unfold from high school and like literally
Same.
met my recruiter the next day, right? Like I was an 18-year-old kid raring to go in good shape. Let's send me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like what you did back then. You know what I mean? I grew up in central
Right.
Wisconsin, but like listening to you describe your home reminds me of what it felt like growing up where I was. And it was like during that time, if you were part of that cohort, it's like that was kind of the natural progression of things. It's like, oh, 9/11, we're all joining. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think my postgraduate options were like do meth and stay at home or like go abroad and do something cool. Right. So I joined the army.
Solid options.
right.
Yeah.
Either
Get
way.
addicted to Rippets or meth.
Yeah. Rippets and
Rippets.
Yellow Jacket energy
There it
pills,
is.
man. That was
Wild Tiger.
yeah. Oh
know.
man,
The
good
safer
times.
option, right? Maybe. We'll find out, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many people quite, well, what'd you do? Why'd you do this? Blah, blah, you know, and I was a firefighter in the army, right? That was my MOS. I had like this inkling that I wanted to do firefighting early in my teen years. So I went with that. But like the army was not super well thought out, man. I met a recruiter. He said, take this test. I said, okay. It got me a job, you know. And it was the best decision I've ever made, man. It took me around the world, you know. Into the very wonderful tourist attraction of Iraq for a year, and then you know it set me up for my adult life and career. It was a great decision.
I actually appreciate hearing that too, because it seems like there for a while, GWAT was winding down, and then just post GWAT era, right? It was the PTSD vet. Like that's all anybody, like if you were going to interview a vet or hear a vet story, it was like how effed up they were, or like what war did to you, like the PTSD thing. And it's like there's actually, if you look at the vast cohort of people that served in the military, I think by far a larger group of people would have a story more like yours, where they're like, the military was good for me. I appreciated the military.
Oh, yeah.
They set me up for a good life. I feel the same as you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I own a house. I got a college degree. My kids have been taken care of. It was a great blessing, man. And I would always promote young kids that need guidance or they want a good fast start to life to get away from home to join the military. There's a lot of opportunities, and I do agree that GWAT stuff. You know, I did firefighting as a career, but you know we saw, and I worked for DoD, so I worked on bases for 18 years as a civilian. Uh, you know, suicide rates are insane. The mental health it is horrible. Um, some people are just built different. Like I'm just a mongoloid, man. Like I can separate emotion and what experiences I've gone through both in war and in the fire service, and it hasn't really affected me. But I've watched a lot of people, both in the fire service and military, have a range of, you know, less significant to, you know, crazy elite operators that are in it every day, right? I've been around them all, and it hits some and it doesn't. But like, never take the gift of serving your country for granted. You know.
That's another great way to put that. The gift of serving your country. It is an opportunity, you know, and it's not one enough people take advantage of. And I agree with you, Chris, that it's just become a trope now. Like, it's real, obviously, what people go through and the way that it affects them, but it has sort of become a trope. And I think that happens after every generation.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a
every
cycle.
generation has had a war, right? You can't name one that hasn't. You know, Vietnam, Korea, World War II, right? It's just had a different name. And there isn't, I think that's part of the glam, almost, in a way, is to talk about how fucked up you are, and not to say that like it's cool when you use the word glam, but it's almost become like a quantifier for your service. And there's not enough, I think, just service members that didn't maybe see something, or they did, but just to come on and talk about how positive their experience was. Because you know, there are people in the military that are like, I hate this, or they have a problem with something and they're just negative all the time. But I genuinely, you know, and I was a military brat as well, there's way more positive that comes out of it than there is negative. And it's going to teach you, like you said, mental health can be a really bad thing, but at the end of the day, like, you become somebody who learns how to manage that stress. And when you get out and you become a civilian, you start to really see just how much some of that stress you went through made you a person capable of dealing with things in a much better way than other people do. I think is sort of a downstream effect of that. But no, I like this, like that you said that it was a gift to serve your country.
Oh, it is, man. And I mean, my boys from the days in Iraq are my closest friends still to this day, and I don't have to see them but every 5 years, and it's like we never miss a thing, man. So there's negatives, man. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to
Sure.
sell it like it's a boy camp, but
Right.
it's far more better than it'll ever suck.
The
Yeah.
ability of the military to take two people that have to spend, let's say, like 12 hours together and then
Mhm.
suddenly become bonded for life from those 12 hours of BS is like
Hmm.
nowhere in the world. And then you can not, like you just said, not talk to him for like 5 years, but you were in that one course together and did that one, like, for instance, it's a thing that they typically do to the guys that go through SFAS is the very first night that you get there, you're standing outside on the rocks all night long. And if you go through a winter selection like I did, like it's cold outside, and if you're not smart enough to bring a coat, well, guess what? You're probably not smart enough to be an SF. Like that's like one of the very first things that they look at, right? But you're standing outside in
Lesson
the
of life.
rocks, just like the dudes that did, during the heat of July. And it's like I still remember dudes that I was standing on the rocks with that night, and have like run across those dudes. Maybe they didn't make it through selection, or they went to different groups, and we were never, in the same team or whatever during selection. But it's like, oh, that one night, dude, we were doing the Manferno outside of the building, waiting to check in for SFAS, and you
Right?
could just
Yeah. Shared
instantly go
suck,
back there,
bro.
dude.
Imagine how tight those guys that sat in a foxhole in Bastogne in World War II. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh
Like
gosh.
that bond is immeasurable. It really is.
yeah.
And
Dude, you're still
I'm
telling the
I'm
same
super.
jokes. Sorry. Oh, you. My bad.
No, no, it's all good, man. I was just gonna say, like, there's you got to be real with yourself and your friends and your boys, man. Like, I was way more traumatized by stuff in the fire service than I was being in Ramadi, Iraq in 2005. It's just
Mm.
a different space, a different experience, and this and that. When I was in Ramadi, I expected what was there,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
But that I mean, we can put a bow on that. Like, I love my service. I'm proud of my service, and it was a gift, man. I would always encourage kids that,
Yeah.
especially like coming from a broken town or a broken family or whatever, and get off, go experience the world, man.
Without a doubt. No, I'm very thankful for it too. And like what I was trying to say is my friends and I, we still tell the same damn jokes that we were telling 15 years ago,
Right.
and they're still funny, and they're really niche. But how did you wind up? Where'd you land after you left out of the army?
So I after Ramadi, got back to Germany, which was my home base, and like immediately PCS'd. You know what I mean? So ended up at Fort Hood, Texas. I had like 1 year left. I mentioned I was an Army firefighter, but for 4 out of my 5 active duty years, I didn't even see firefighting gear or a fire truck or anything, man.
Mm.
I was the Army's canary, is how I like to say it. I got put in an ammo unit as a firefighter, which meant I had no mission. And so uh, I literally got to do everything, man. I was a unit armor, a unit comms specialist, the voluntold for every mission, man, but it gave me so many cool experiences. Get to Fort Hood in '07. Work. I finally saw a fire station, man. I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is what it's actually supposed to be like." Um, and my oldest daughter was born in '07 too, so
Very cool.
I had that like decision point. Everybody's met the retention NCO. They're hunting
Hmm.
you down. I did try to volunteer to go to Afghanistan with the unit I was with. I think it was like 67th engineer, 62nd engineers, but I didn't get that slot, so in '08, I ETS'd out honorably and literally went from leaving the fire station on Friday as a Army uh, soldier and coming back Monday in civilian T-shirt and saying I'm back, and I had the same bunk room. So it was a cool transition.
Funny.
Um, yeah, I stayed at Fort Hood till 2013. So uh, Hood had some changes during that time. If you guys remember, there was a couple large events that took
Hmm.
place at Fort Hood. Um, it changed. Like even as big as Hood was, it was like a family installation. I thought still for the most part.
Hmm.
There was like barbecues and housing and stuff when we because that's where fire stations are on bases.
Yeah.
Uh, and then post the '09 shooting, it just changed I think the fabric of how that post was viewed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had an opportunity to just blindly like put in for a Fort Carson transfer as a civilian, got hired, went up there, and I stayed at Fort Carson Fire until 2022. Um,
Damn.
yeah, and got out. Not got out. I mean, I was a civilian, but took another route. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of launches us into our story. And in 2018, I had started getting divorced after like 15 years. The army spouse, you know what I'm saying? The one that you have.
Your starter spouse.
Yeah, after 15 years, man, we were both soldiers, but
Mm-hmm.
ugly divorce, man, got ugly, and that
Dang.
parlayed into a continued custody battle, which in 2022 the court granted me as the dad full custody of both my two teen daughters. So um, it just wasn't super conducive to raising two girls on your own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So going from 48-hour shifts to something else, I looked at doing like be a fire inspector or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking around, and this opportunity local came up to put in for a fire chief's job. Uh, and I skipped ahead a little bit actually. So I was serving because I had come off of an injury. I had like a bicep tear, and they had to
Mm-hmm.
reattach it and all that. So I was out for surgery, and I ended up having two surgeries for that repair for about a year. And during my like come back onto from recovery, a local fire department was like, "Hey, we need an interim chief. We got a bunch of chaos going on." I lived right down the street, um, and was known. They called me, and I called my chief and said, "Hey, can I just take leave?" Well, as I kind of transitioned back, he was totally cool with it. Um, and then in that time frame is when the court ordered, you know, or ruled, or however you do it. But I was
Yeah.
awarded the full custody, so I was never intending to put in for that on a permanent basis, just serving as an interim. But when that happened, I put in, and I got hired in September of 2023. So, no, I'm sorry, September 2022. I was hired as the fire chief. So I
Gotcha.
left DOD service and was just kind of out in the normal world again, you know?
Mm-hmm. Damn. How did you first come across something where you were just like, this is not right?
Uh, but that it took some time, man. Like I had taken over in this interim phase because the guy behind or in front of me or behind me, I guess, the chief prior to me,
Mm-hmm.
um, had gotten himself into a pickle with the board of directors, which is the governing body, right? Um, and they brought me in to just stabilize things, but when I got there,
Mm-hmm.
you got to kind of look into the condition of things and kind of report back to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was a fucking mess. I mean, it was horrible. There's a culture shift in the fire service that if you're not in, you might not have experienced, of course, or even saw. But like rural small town departments were just kind of rednecky for a while there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And probably some still are, but I came from a really professional, like DOD military standard fire department, tip of the spear, like in operations and everything we did. And so, of course, I carried that with me. And the metrics, if you will, the grades were not good. It was like 19-minute response time for, which is
Wow.
like you pick up dial 911 until somebody arrives that's able to help you. That's a response time.
That's wild.
Uh, so 19 minutes, man. Like, imagine the person you love the most in the world, whether that's your wife or your kid or whatever, just sitting there. And then there was only like four or five responders, and of that, you might have had one EMT, you might have had somebody with a firefighting cert, but none of them together could operate like at a full capacity
Mm-hmm.
firefighter. So obviously, I didn't like that. I lived there too, and I took that mindset of my kids live here, my house is here, and the department needs to get better. So when I was hired in September 2023, I had a vision to achieve that, and so we just got to work, man. And so that first inkling happened when I kind of investigated, like, why are response times so bad? Why is this so poorly managed? Um, but I corrected it pretty quick. I always say, like, as a professional, when you identify something, it is literally your job to correct it. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's professionalism. So I grew the department from September until January, really the time frame. from like 4 or 5 members to 62 members, all put them through training. With like 15 of them were EMTs, and our response times got down to 7 minutes in January of 2023. So we were riding a high, you know what I mean? Um, but there was a lot of that prior crowd, I guess, in small towns. I always call it tribalism, man. You know, you got this neighborhood or this neighborhood that, you know, thinks they can do everything better. And so, although this group had failed to manage and be a part of a department, they joined forces with other yahoos with loud mouths. And around that time in January, when we were really hitting our stride, uh, this the board of directors elections were coming up in May, and so this is when things started to get weird, I'll say. And these 5 people came out. There was 5 board positions. All were up for election, and they ran. I mean, the first weird thing was like, "Oh, we're running as a slate of 5 people. So if you vote for one of us, you have to vote for all 5 of us."
Eric,
Uh,
can I interject with a question real quick and put a pin in the 5 board members that are getting elected to ask you a
yeah.
question and then jump back to that? It sounds to me you said that you took the job interim. What did you say? I remember January is by the time you decreased your response time by over half. How long had you been in the position at that point?
So I was supposed to in April of 2022 is when I
April.
got the call. Yeah, can you
Okay.
be the interim chief? And it was they asked me to do 2 weeks, and
Oh,
this is actually a really
Wow.
stupid decision on my part, but I'll get into why. So I remember I've got like 18 years of federal service at this point. Obviously, my family dynamic changes, but I'm approaching that like retirement
mm-hmm.
investment, you know. So from
Coasting at this
April,
point, most people would be.
yeah, chilling, right? Um, that 2 weeks kept getting extended 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And my fire chief was super cool with like just letting me burn off my leave. But that came to a head where like I was out of leave somewhere around like end of July, August of 2022. And I think the court order was late June. So it was pretty fresh. And so literally like man, as an interim chief with no guarantee beyond the next like couple weeks, I quit my job with DOD, and just like I sat down with my kids, was like betting on myself that I'll get this, you know. And luckily I did. Otherwise, that would have been a bad decision. And not that it ended up well, as we'll get into, but I was super motivated, man. I loved being the fire chief. I loved recruiting and working with young, motivated kids. So April to September was that interim chief phase, and then September into this part of the story is what January, February timeframe of the next year. That's kind of the whole window of time.
Were you able to implement the change? I would imagine just based on that timeline, while you were doing the interim thing, like any decent leader, and especially a leader that comes out of the military, you're looking at and you're assessing down and in like what the problems are to solve, right? Were you able to
Yeah.
start attacking those from that April to September, or was it not until you officially took over from September to January that you were able to start like implementing those changes that you saw needed to take
Yeah.
place?
I wouldn't say that I had no changes implemented. You always have to be respectful of you're in a temporary role and somebody's got to come in behind you, right?
Right.
So I didn't make wholesale changes. I wasn't changing policy. I wasn't changing a whole lot of stuff. I literally just was doing the job at the level it needed to be done at a professional standard and setting that example. But literally the day that they hired me, I laid out a strategic plan and vision for the department. And I was very bold in that. I mean, literally, like I said, this department has been shit. I'm going to turn it around. Turning it around meant rebranding it. So I literally designed a new logo for it. I'd put this huge 60-foot mural on the wall over a weekend with a muralist that I paid for out of my pocket, and the board president had donated as well. Um, and man, like we tagged what our standard was right on the side of the building, and we just started hitting it, man. I told them the night they hired me, you know, and you go through like the contract negotiations and all that. I said I'll create something that people just flock to. They want to be a part of, and the fire service is a magnet for motivated young people and small communities. always have people that just want to be part of that community. And it worked flawlessly. I will say that. I mean, we
Yeah,
had more people than I could keep up with names.
Was
that's
the
awesome.
mural just your mustache on the wall? Was that
Nah,
just?
I wish. I'll send you a picture of it.
I want to see
And
it.
remind me in the story to talk about this because there's a how big of assholes these people become. But
Sure.
I used to get emails from all over the country because we were on a main highway through the mountains. And so at night you would crest this hill driving through the mountains, and all of a sudden there's this huge lit up mural, and it was super patriotic, firefighters, all sorts of stuff, man. So I used to get people like, "Hey, we drove through last week. We just wanted to reach out. It was super cool."
That's
Well, the
awesome.
reason. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were
No,
wrapping that up. The only reason I had wanted to dig into the timeline is because you were kind of glassing over what you were able to accomplish, and I was thinking about it in my head, and I'm like, wait a second. So you said that you increased the numbers by 62. You decreased response and put them all through training, which that's a whole thing. Fire has like a whole pipeline of training there, everybody's to go through, get validated, certified, right? Like all that stuff. Your EMTs, all those guys, all that stuff too. And then you decreased your response times by well over half, from 19 minutes down to
Almost three
7
times.
minutes, almost three
yeah,
times. And realistically, you did all of that between September and January when you actually fully took the seat. And that represents what strong leadership can absolutely do in a top-down driven type organization like fire, like the military, when you have the right leader that's there. And that's like I want to, like, I was listening to that and putting it together, and I'm like, dude, I'm not going to let you out of the hot seat on what you actually accomplished in the time frame that you accomplished it in, because that's pretty incredible.
yeah. And I'll only correct you in a slight thing. It is not on me, right? Like I created a environment through a leadership vision, and I put like I one of my first things was I hired two guys that one was a retired SF dude with fire training, and I hired him to be one of my part-time captains, and another career guy that I had met, man. I like in the chaos of like taking up that interim phase, he showed up at the fire station and said, "Hey man, I love this department. I live here. I'm a professional fireman. I'm here to help you." And he was super loyal. So this guy's name's Randy, and the other guy, the retired SF guy, was his name went by Patch. So I let them, you know what I mean? Like I
Mm.
just created a comfort zone for the culture to just ignite. I mean, that's the best way to do it, man. We got some young kids that were motivated, and it just said, "What do you need?" And like this is the right way to do things, and laid that out, and they're the ones that created something special. You know, I mean, I can only take so much credit for that, and
Decentralized leadership.
yeah, 100%. It's empowering your people, man. That's truly what leadership is, right? Is like
Right.
influencing people to reach their highest potential. I think that's like the actual definition of leadership, but
Mm-hmm.
supporting them to accomplish that. And I will find every time that I've ever been in a leadership position that when I do that, the expectations that I had are so elementary to what actually gets accomplished by
Mm.
people with passion and excitement behind them. So um, that is why the department had so much success. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna say that two things I thought about when you were describing this is that first it's always when you go through the process, as I've taken over sections before that were screwed up, and you start going into, well, why is this going wrong? You quickly learn that these mistakes, they are simple, but because they've been repeated over and over and over again, they generate all these other downstream effects that make things bad, and it is normally something really simple, and it normally falls back into the normal things that just aren't happening day to day. And if you just do these normal things right, then we're going to be okay. It's going to take some time for the kinks to work themselves out, but that's normally what it is. And it's nothing complicated. It's just do your job. And it sounds like that's what you had. And like you said, hey, I got a bunch of motivated guys here, and just tell me what you need. This is the right way to do it, and that's it. They're going to do it. They have the motivation to do these things. You don't need to micromanage those the expectations you have from those guys. But the other thing that came to mind when you said you changed the logo and everything, like it makes me think there's a really good book called Steal My Soldiers' Hearts by Colonel David Hackworth, and in that he basically took one of the worst units in Vietnam and made it one of the best units in Vietnam, and even the things that he did were change the paint on their helmets and everything from it. That's an outstanding book to talk about like changing culture and everything like that. But that's what it made me think of. It's a total top-down change, even from the way we look here. That's a common trope. It's not just something that you did that it's like, oh, this is a unique idea. Like, yeah, like that's what actually like real change is all about. Is like there's a ontological piece to this too that you have to deal with, and it's everything. And I think that you doing that is bigger than being symbolic. It's actually the right move in a very physical sense.
Yeah, there's definitely some psychology too. Like this is new and fresh, and like we are responsible for the reputation of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's something as simple as a logo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or something that actually truly doesn't matter in a job, but it's an identity that people are motivated and excited to like form something new that's positive. And like
Mm-hmm.
again, like all I did was make that environment comfortable to succeed at the highest level.
Uh-huh.
And believe me, like we weren't the best in the world by any means, but like that tight knit bond and caring truly for what the job was and responding to the community was, um, yeah. And actually, let me tie a bow on that point. We progressed to April, man, and when I presented that, one of the things that I put as my vision was like I want to do a community event that like nobody has experienced in this area. So like in the past they had done like a spaghetti feed fundraiser or pancake breakfast, right? People just come through an assembly line, they're fucking throwing some pancakes on a plate, they put $10 in and they walk off. I said that's not how we're gonna do things. Like we'll be community centric, and so I threw this thing called the Family Fire Muster. Man, we had kids competitions where we set up like this course for kids. We timed it, and the local like AAA baseball team donated us dozens of tickets. So kids were winning ticket to like a suite at a baseball game. We had hundreds of
That's
community
cool.
members showed up. Uh, and I just pitched the idea. We're just gonna do like a Fourth of July style barbecue with our neighbors, and so this happens to be the weekend before this election takes place on
Mm-hmm.
May 3rd. So I think the day was like April 27th is when we threw it. Um, the historical, like when they had done a pancake breakfast, wherever they would raise like $7,000-8,000, and on this one day we did 27 grand a week before the elections, like.
That's
And
awesome.
I make that point because it's community buy-in. It's not just the 60 kids that are running around, right? Like and training their heart out. Um, like people attended and people
Mm-hmm.
give their money on top of the tax money they already did. And there's a YouTube video of it that somebody had made, and it's just like it still brings a tear to my eye because it's like that was pride in that. But the point that I was going to make to that is that night I sat with my two captains as everybody was kind of cleaning up, and it was an exhausting day, man. Like 14 hours, you know what I mean? And we just looked at all of the young firefighters doing their thing, still motivated, laughing with each other. And we just, as the old guys, if you will, sat
Mm-hmm.
back and we were like, this is how it was supposed to be. This is what we worked our butts off for 6-7 months to achieve, and we did it. And we're gonna carry this, man. And it was like the highlight of everything that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the next week came. Not to transition too hard into that, but
If it is.
Let's go.
it literally, this is where we're at. April 27th, man. I'm the highest like plateau, man. And just grooving. I had like 6 new people that like came up to me during that event. Was like, I'm gonna come be a fireman. Like, I want to come serve with you guys. So that 62 was about to grow further, right? So let me get into the meat of this. Is May 2nd, 2023. Now I told you there was all this other group, this opposing force. They were running a very ugly campaign this whole time, right?
Mm-hmm.
January into May. And when I look back on it, man, like I wasn't involved in it. I was running a fire department and training young people to do fire and responding to calls and all that stuff. They would pull me into it, man. The one example I remember was this guy Paul on this opposing kind of asshole group. Uh, in his campaign rhetoric on Facebook or whatever, says like, "Oh, Erik's this misogynistic leader. I hear nothing but bad things about him." All
Jeez.
this, and I like have the text messages because I'm like, "Hey, man. First of all, I'm not a candidate for any elective office. I'm the fire chief. I am a single dad of two daughters, and over 50% of my fire department is young females. So I don't know where you're getting that. I will invite you in to come and talk to all of these female troops that I lead, and you know, we are in the mud together. But wherever you're getting that, you should probably leave me out." And you know, I left it sort of at that. But because of the contentious nature of that campaign, um, and I won't say that the incumbent board wasn't engaging in it either. I'm not saying this was a one-sided thing, but I wasn't involved because of that contentious nature. A law firm got hired to run the election, right?
Mhm.
And they didn't want me to be there or any of the firefighters to be there, even though it was held at the fire station. So I worked remote from home on the day that the elections took place, right? So May 2nd, 2023, I show up, I unlock the fire station. The law firm paralegal was there to administer the election and do all the legal stuff. Said, if you need anything, I'll be around. And I leave, right? Um, I didn't vote in it. I wasn't a part of it. I didn't like hang out there. I was there at one point during the day. I think I had to go two or three times, but like one specific, we had responded to a call, and this probably shouldn't surprise anyone. 911 still happens, whether it's Christmas or the election's going on
Mhm.
or whatever, right? So, an unfortunate call. Responded to a gentleman who was having like difficulty breathing or something. I don't remember the exact nature. But the paramedic decided we need to get medevac out there because we are rural. It's 40 minutes or something by ground transport to the hospital. So we flew a lot of high acuity medical calls. We would fly them. Well, that landing station is at the fire station.
Mhm.
So I'm at this house rendering aid. Paramedic makes a call. I jet in my chief vehicle to go land a helicopter and set up the LZ and all that, right? Well, in transport, the guy went into cardiac arrest, and so I'm
Mhm.
hearing it on the radio. I land the bird. We do CPR on this guy for 40 minutes or something until, unfortunately, you don't bring people back. That's just
Mhm.
uh, a day in the job of doing fire, right? So my job now is as the local fire chief is to go inform his family that
Mhm.
despite our best efforts, he passed away. And when he left the house, remember he was alive. So um, that's never a fun situation at all. But that is part of the job. And
Mhm.
so I go there, console the family, give them as much answers as I can and contact information for support and all this stuff. And I go back to the station to pick up my chief vehicle. And the election's just going on. It's a hubbub of activity. But this is where the back to when's the first time there was the oh shit moment. This is really it. I'm like pulling out, and somebody walks up to me that it's a small community. I don't know who they are, but they had just voted. They came out and they had their phone. They said, "Hey, look at this," and I'm like, "Look, it's a poll watcher that's standing. If you've ever voted, you know the electioneering boxes and the signs, right?
Mhm.
So this poll watcher that's working the election, that's an observer, is standing there on her cell phone." And they're like, "Hey, like the sign clearly says no electronic devices, no electioneering, all this stuff."
Mhm.
Um, but what I just overheard is she was walking out in front of me, and I could hear her conversation. And she said, "Did you pay them?" And she was getting a vehicle description, and so I took a picture of her. Is what this person tells me,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Well, that's super alarming," you know. But I'm not the person to take the complaint to, and I take them to that election official and then I leave. But I have to detail this point. Like when you start a fire, it starts small. And this is the moment like in my belly, I call it a morality fire, is like it
Mhm.
it just fired. All right. Like it's just starting. because I don't like that. I have taken an oath to defend this country. I serve my country, my community, everything. That is my life, right? And so, anywho, I do that. I leave. I go back home, and then I have to come back that night to secure the fire station, right? So the election was 12 hours long. And the like social media, man, like the poll watchers that were working that were posting the results of the election on like the local Facebook pages or whatever before the election was official or closed.
Oh,
And these are all like illegal things that I'm detailing, right? There is law that says that you can't do these things. Um, and so like I go back, I hear the results of the election, which was all non-incumbents won, which was very shocking because the incumbents ran on the building and success of this department.
right.
This opposing people were running that they could do it better, right? Which is fine. Uh, but all five were non-incumbents, and it was all five, that slate of five that ran together.
Mm-hmm.
But what had caught my attention was that election official was like, it was like way too many people than what we expected today. And I was like, oh, well, how much, like, and it was like three times that,
Mm-hmm.
All
the expected
all
voter
the
turnout.
all the non-incumbents you said ran together, same party, same ticket.
Yeah, but it's not like a party ticket, right? Like
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
in a local election, you raise your hand and say, elect me, I have good ideas.
Right. Okay.
People vote for you, right?
Hmm.
So this is what it is because it's a local thing. But they ran as that slate. Like if you vote for one of us, you vote for all of us.
Got you. Okay.
Skirts legality and campaigning, but wasn't my business. Um, on top of like the three times voter turnout, all five of the winning candidates had a margin of like 1%.
Mm.
So vote one gets 300, vote, 300, and then 299, 298, 297. You're like, whoa, that's a really close spread.
Right.
Statistically, in population demographics and results
Mm-hmm.
that come from that, you're never going to see something that close.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that stood out because then it went to half of that and a third of there was huge chunks in every. I think there was 12 candidates total for five. So five people had, a one degree or 1% difference, and the rest had huge gaps.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something to take note of, but I didn't really care, man. I still had my job to do. Whoever's on the board doesn't matter to me. Like, I've got a job. I'm a contracted fire chief, right?
Can I ask you real quick? You said that there was like three times the voter turnout and the election officials that were there. Is there a ratio of election officials that are supposed to be present based on the voter turnout for fairness
I don't
or
know
observation?
that.
Just
That's
curious.
a good question. I don't know. There was the designated election official that was like the administrator of,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was like three or four actual paid election judges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what I didn't mention it, so the poll watchers are assigned by candidates. So there
Ah,
was six poll watchers on that day. Five of the poll watchers belonged to the winning candidates, and then one that was closely aligned but had somewhat pulled out. Like
well, that doesn't seem like a conflict of interest at all.
right. And this is allowed in the state of Colorado, which I didn't
Mm.
think twice of before this situation, right? Um, but anyways, like lock the door and go home. I sleep like a baby, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had no care in the world about it because anytime you've seen a campaign, there's rhetoric, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
And then there's the
goes
real
to the
job.
territory. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Just like once you start to do your job, the reality sets in. So I didn't have any worries. So like a day or two later, there's a little market in town, man. I'm like getting off work, stopping to probably get some hamburger helper to feed my girls,
Mm-hmm.
and another person comes up and they're like, "Hey, I need to report something from the election." And I'm like, "What is it?"
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, well, I got recorded when I went in. And I was like, recorded by who? You know, like the poll watchers were like mean mugging me and recording me. Uh, and this person was clearly like not aligned with that group, right? So they described it as intimidation. So I
Right.
call the election official and I'm like, hey, this is what I heard. And I need to connect you to this person. They want to lodge a complaint. Just give me a heads up. And she was like, hey, let me get the attorney on the phone real quick. You know, the big attorney. Uh, and they're like, hey, we've gotten like three complaints now, and there's actually something pretty worrisome going on. We need you to just kind of hang tight and you know just do everything, but don't play into it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this law firm represents. I work with them as the fire chief for HR stuff or a host of other things, right? So I'm like, all right, well, let me know if you need anything, this and that. Well, when I heard that, that fire in my belly, man, I describe it like it just starts really going, man. And there's a pivotal night, man. I go home, I tuck my girls in after eating, doing the dad thing, hanging out with them, and I can't get it out of my head, man. And like I just feel stress about like what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I describe this, and it probably doesn't sound like a normal thing, but like for me, it just was the right thing to do. I sit on the edge of my bed, and just like I'm talking to you right now, I talk to myself, man. I'm like out loud,
Sure.
like what is there, what's going on here, you know? And the
I hear
important part
this.
of that was like, okay, if something's wrong, are you going to do something about it, or are you going to be a punk, basically? Um, because my best interest, and this is no secret, the board elected is my bosses. They control whether I have a job and I don't. So I know that. This is pretty evident to me, but I can't get out of my head what I've heard. And so I literally was like, I told myself out loud, I had to hear myself say it. If you find something, what are you going to do? You know, are you going to ignore this and do the punk thing and like what's best for you? Or are you going to look into this? And then if you find something, are you ready for the ramifications of that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's some foreshadowing, man, because I literally was like, yep, whatever it takes. If it was wrong, it was wrong. If I don't find anything, that's okay. But I need to know.
Yeah.
So the next day, I wake up, go to work, get off. I had contacted, well, I went to Walmart, bought some thumb drives. That's kind of insignificant in this, but dressed in civilian clothes, my own personal vehicle, show up at this third party company that maintained the security system of the station, right? So the board had entered into a contract for a security system, which was key card access to the fire stations, video surveillance, all that. But it
Mm-hmm.
was not managed in the firehouse. This is a third party company. So I show up there. The best way to describe this is basically it's an open records request, but an open records request where they know who I am. But I don't do this on the dime of the fire department. Like I literally swipe my bank card, give them thumb drives that I paid for, and I said I need the election footage from May 2nd, 2023 for the 12-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
And like a day or two later, they called me back. Like, here's your thumb drive. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
ask questions if it was, you know, this and that. It's a publicly funded building.
Right.
I've been asked a lot of times, did you do that as a fire chief or did you do that as Erik Holt? And I
Mm.
very purposefully did it as Erik Holt, where I did my bank card in clothes just like this. No, I'm the fire chief. And that is an important factor in court stuff, right? Which I didn't know at the time, but I did take those steps. Uh, so I literally get handed a thumb drive, man, and it's like a funny moment, but I was like it like tingled, man. As soon as I grabbed it, it like I've never held nuclear launch codes, but that's what this thing felt
Right.
like, man, because I didn't know what was gonna be on it. So go home, do the dad thing, cook dinner, hang out with my girls, tuck them in, and I'm like, what the fuck am I even looking for? You know,
Sure.
what am I gonna like? I'm not a law enforcement. I'm not an attorney. I'm definitely not an election person. So I go on Google on my laptop and I print out like, what are the election rules for Colorado? And I print out this thing, and luckily for me, there's a list of rules on there,
Mm.
specifically for poll watchers. So I just plug in the thumb drive, and there's 4 folders on the thumb drive, and you open one folder, and it's 12 1-hour clips. That's what I got. And so I just started watching. And so very early in the first camera was directly over watching the poll watchers table. Uh, the poll watcher pulls out their laptop, and on their screen you can see that they're filming the room. And on the rules it says poll watchers may not have electronic devices, no video devices, no counting of ballots, no, all this list, right? And so I was like, oh, that's an electronic device. That's against this rule, i.e., that's a violation of law.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's recording. That's a violation of law. So I just put tallies. And so I go through like, it ended up being 3 12-hour cameras, and then one was only like motion or like was only used part of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended up being like 41, 42 hours of footage.
Sure.
And I watched every minute of that. And I held up the piece of paper that I had been putting tallies, and there's hundreds of them. And I'm like, that's not an accident. I still don't know what I was like, if there's a scheme here, but I know nobody violates the law hundreds of times in a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
So I go back through with a sharper eye. Like, okay, if there's a scheme, I need to find it. So I started with, oh, I remember being there, and the report that lady said. So I went to the outside camera, which has audio, and find the clip. And here comes poll watcher on the phone, and here comes that person that reported, and I can hear it. And the only thing was there was some wind chopping, so I didn't hear, did you pay him? But every other thing that person had told me lined up. I can hear whoever that lady is on the phone with getting a vehicle description, asking what the people look like, motioning them over to her, and then getting in close and telling them who to vote for. And I was like, okay, there's a scheme, because she's talking to somebody that's off location.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody's off location coordinating voters to show up. And even if I can't hear, did you pay him? I can see that they aren't familiar. Why is there a poll watcher out receiving people with somebody coordinating?
Mm-hmm.
And so the scheme that I uncovered, just to save time here, was on the inside camera. It took a while, but I finally caught frames of the poll watcher table, and there are 5 winning candidate poll watchers with trap counters. And then I could go to the outside camera, and every few minutes, one of those poll watchers is getting up, walking outside, and is on our device, and they're meeting people. And then when those people go in and vote, very, very obvious. And some were a little more overt, but like as they would fill out their ballots and they'd come from behind the screen, we couldn't see that on the camera. But they would go like this, or they'd thumbs up to the poll watchers table, and then they would click their thumb devices, right? And I was like, well, that's the scheme. Although that wouldn't be enough to guarantee, right? Like I can count all day long on a track counter, but I don't know per se that, I got to know the total number versus how many people gave me a signal.
Mm-hmm.
But that other camera that I said was only partially used, I had breezed over that first time, because all it was on a normal day was an engine bay, like a garage where
Mm-hmm.
we parked the fire engines. Um, and most of the time, like those clips, the lights are off in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on closer review, when the lights were on is when they were officially counting ballots. That's the room that they had taken the locked box ballots, and they would unlock it and count them. And it's the official count. And that had audio. And it still shocks me, man. And like when people listen to this, like these videos that I'm about to talk about are up on my Facebook. You can go watch them yourselves. The first thing that I caught was how they would do. They'd walk in with the secure box. 2 election officials would sit on one side of the table. And the rule said no closer than 6 feet. 2 poll watchers could sit and observe the ballot count. But they are doing this, and I don't remember how I caught it. It just jumped out like a lightning bolt. but they read like four of them, and it's the same names in successive order. And the election judge goes, "Oh my God, this election's fixed," and they all kind of laughed. And I was like, it just was a lightning bolt because you don't expect somebody that's an election judge to say
Mm-hmm.
that. So then I watch it back and I start paying attention a little more. And literally, it's just a fold out table, man. So there's no like beard or what you can see. The poll watcher is sitting there like this, directly across the table, and is counting every time she reads a ballot. And I was like, oh, well, now you can guarantee the outcome of an election.
Mm-hmm.
You can count all day and then confirm the vote totals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh shit. And then another video was the same election judge was in with two other poll watchers, and they're just like shooting the shit, man, like they're homies. And she was like, well, the DEO said that this was going to be contentious, and I told her, who's going to enforce the rules? Because I'm not. And I like that's caught, and I'm like, you're an election official. You can't be telling these people that are clearly cheating right in front of you. And so I don't accuse that election worker was in on it, but was
Mm-hmm.
com- complicit in watching it happen and not doing what they're legally required to do. And so the final home run, man, was after that moment when they were counting, they had to walk back down to this across the parking lot. And one of the candidates, who's not even supposed to be on location, that's electioneering, walks up and meets three poll watchers. And they do it directly under a high definition camera with audio. And they detailed how they had been cheating and telling him he was going to win to the point that like she said, this is how many votes total, and we're good. They can't win. Like it tells him, right? So that video is up on my Facebook. Go watch it. Um, and I was like, okay, like this is. I've spent a couple days watching this footage. Like it's put a bow on it. I've solved it, right? So I called that attorney back. I let my incumbent, the lame duck period board president know
Mm-hmm.
because they still have the authority. I let them all know, like, hey, this is bad. And the the attorney is just like, hey, like, let me figure out what's going on here. So I showed them. That attorney called the district attorney's office and tells
Mm-hmm.
me that the board president, unbeknownst to me, I don't know that the lawyer called the DA, and I don't know that the incumbent lame duck board president files an injunction with the court to stay the election results after I show them what I'd found. Um, but like the next day after, the lawyer was like, "Hey, I think she emailed me. Hey, I've filed something with the DA's office. They may reach out to you. I've let them know." And so I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna call." And so I call the DA, which is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I'm super naive back then, man. Like I don't know the game. I'm like, "Hey, can I talk to the DA?" And they're like, "No, like you're never gonna get to the DA
Right.
because it's a big county, right?" And I'm like, well, this is what I got. This is why I'm calling. I need somebody. So I get a call back from an investigator who then just like, I need to meet with you ASAP. He comes and meets with me. I sit down with him for an hour or two and like give him the high level stuff. And he was also provided an Excel spreadsheet of the violation of law, who committed it, the timestamp on the videos, like a big, beautiful spreadsheet with all the evidence, man. They guided him.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I should have done my best Trump right then.
I was, I
Big,
was,
beautiful.
I was waiting for it.
Right.
Uh, but like, so he details in his report, which I obviously don't see at the time, but he was like, dude, this is clear violations of law. Like this is election cheating. And he puts in his report that I now have, it is clear that election violations took place.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about it, too. So all melee breaks out, man. I'll speed through this part, but like the five that had been declared winners are now under criminal investigation. There's a court injunction filed to ensure that the transition doesn't happen. And these people are like, fuck that. We seize power. They literally like put it out on Facebook. They start showing up to the fire station like, we seize power. We have the authority. And you would say that that's probably impossible to do, but these people got lucky in a few things. That attorney couldn't represent them because she filed a criminal investigation against them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the second that they say, we declared that we're in power, she says, I can't represent this entity anymore. I have a conflict. And so the one person is the attorney that can say this isn't legal, right? Except a
Mm-hmm.
judge. Well, courts just take time. So an injunction gets filed, they don't even hear it for 2 weeks or something like that. So in that period of time, these people came in and like, we're in power. And their first act was they went to the bank and represented that they were people with authority and that they would freeze the bank accounts. The bank's legal department realized that pretty quickly and they hard froze the bank accounts. They were like, this is bank fraud, plain and simple. The person that showed up was not on the bank accounts. It would be like me going to, either yours or Chris or Brandon and saying, "Hey, I'm not them, but I want to freeze their accounts." The bank's going to say, "Get out of here," or call the cops, right? Unfortunately, that's not what happened. The bank just sort of like caught it, was like, "There's bank fraud going on," hard froze the accounts. And in this, it's just chaos for me and the firefighters, But
But
they
my
start targeting us pretty hard.
sorry, I
Go
was
ahead.
just gonna say my question on all of this is what's the incentive here for hostile takeover, right? Like you would think that there's a rush, there's an incentive here to go in and hostile takeover, not wait the period. Like, do they just think that, hey, we're just gonna go take power, that because we have power now, the investigation is going to go away? Like, what's the incentive here? Like, from what you're saying, there's levels that are involved. The bank is doing things that are abnormal. You know,
Yeah.
it sounds like too these people have done this before. Just the sheer confidence to stand there in the engine bay and talk about these things, as cavalier as they are,
That's what
sounds
I
like
was
to
thinking
me
too.
that this is not the first time that this has gone on, right? So
Yeah.
my question is, like, what is the incentive to take over this fire board essentially and this small rural fire department, right? And this area in Colorado, like, why?
I've been asked that a ton of times, and I can only speculate, right? Because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've always said I think it's a mix of things. I think tribalism is dangerous in small towns or anywhere where you get a group of together and your ego is wrapped in a facade.
I
And so
know
you'll do
small town
anything to
America.
win so your neighbors don't think you lost, right? And I think that's how these people got into it. They were rah up and they made this situation where, like, because they've publicly argued for 6 months, they're not going to lose to somebody. So they'll go to great lengths to do it. And then I think it skyrocketed on temperature when they found out there was a criminal investigation going on, right? Then it was a rush to get in power because the first email they sent to me was give us the login and passwords for the
Oh,
security system.
of course it
Like,
was.
yeah. And that was very telling to me, right?
So
And so I
tampering with
think,
evidence and obstruction, right? So
yeah. And like at the time, you're just trying to survive it. But like I have stuff from court discovery now. So it's like I have a clearer picture
hmm
without giving away too much. I think it was like if the image was that they were rightfully in power, a lot of the noise would go away because these
hmm
people have lost, right? And they could counter that.
hmm
Um, and then you could get rid of evidence and you
hmm
had that power and ultimately get rid of me, the guy that reported it,
right.
which not to pop the bubble here, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
So it took from the time they seized power, quote unquote, until they fired me in a very humiliating way was less than 30 days. I mean, it was like 3 weeks. And of that, I was on vacation for two of them.
Mm.
Uh,
What did they do, if you don't mind me asking, to fire you that was humiliating? Was it publicly in front of all of these people that you'd come to lead, or yeah?
yeah, so I mean, you have to agendize things and post it ahead of
hmm
time, right? So 24 hours before the meeting, they were gonna evaluate me and my performance and job there. And so obviously all of my firefighters that are available show up, and then their group of spouses and friends and everybody shows up. So, and of course the media people. So I would say there's 100 people or more there. But remember I worked there, so I'm like literally just getting through the day at my desk, and people start to come in, and they parade in. They rented a movie theater commercial popcorn machine, and they start bringing in lemonade dispensers, like the big glass, nice looking ones, and they're it. Board meetings aren't fun, man. Like people walk in, you're like, oh, this is, I got this one
Right.
thing I want to hear. I'm
Ritual.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, these people are throwing a party, and they're being very vile. So um, that's what I mean by publicly, because of course then like the local newspaper writes an article that like this whole thing happens. I knew I was going to lose my job, man. I was a whistleblower at that point. My job was to keep the department together and my firefighters protected and unified, because like the community was still going to dial 911.
Yes.
So literally they go through all these accusations. The accusation that they fired me on was an insurance bill that had come in that the president had signed, like acknowledgement basically, didn't get paid, uh, was against the rules. It was a $23,000 bill for like an annual renewal. My limit in the bylaws and policies was $5,000. And anything over that had to be board with 2 signatures on any transactions. So that would have, like, the logic there doesn't even make sense. But oh, by the way, they committed bank fraud, so like the bank was hard froze. Nobody was going to get paid for anything, right? So they fire me because that bill doesn't get paid. As soon as they take the vote and they vote unanimously, like Erik's fired, I stand up and I said, look, like I'm gone, that's fine, but this department and this community still needs this department. This guy, Randy, is my most qualified dude, and everybody believes in him. My recommendation is that right now you allow him to lead this department so that nobody misses a beat. And like they just get stupid. They're like, "Oh, we don't want another little Erik running around and this," and like
Wow.
people that you like. There's a love between like people that you lead and them loving you, right? Like it's a real thing, and so they're getting offended, man. And it ends in this like walkout where I'm just like, I like literally followed them out, throw them out. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know what I mean? And they literally fired all 62 of the firefighters because they were Erik's firefighters. Um, and then the mural. So the mural was a big one, right? I didn't tell you guys in the beginning. So the background was this huge waving flag, and there was 2 firefighters on each side, and then that new logo in the center. And this is like a 60, 80-foot long mural.
Right.
The 2 firefighters were images from 9/11. There was a kneeling firefighter on an axe in his gear, and then there was just another picture. But on their helmet numbers, I had put 2 of my close friends in the fire service that had passed away.
Okay.
And I had my reasons for doing that, which was literally like, I'll never forget why I'm coming to work when I see those numbers up.
Right.
And because I had put those numbers, they literally just whitewashed it out one day, just to be dicks, right? And it was something that was like well prized in the community. People loved it. So that's the level of like BS was going on, man.
This doesn't even really
That's
sound
evil, pettiness. Yeah.
like BS. This is it sounds to me like a campaign to destroy extricate you, and then destroy your legacy on top of it. Like this is very reminiscent of
Salt the earth is what it is.
Marxist style tactics where nothing can exist from before. Like not even the mural is allowed to stay. It's got to be whitewashed. That's incredible.
Yeah, they changed the logo back, everything. Like, I mean, you are correct. That is the end result of what they did. 100% accurate there.
Can I drill into something real quick? Because I just want to understand, and the accuracy matters, about the bank part of it. Was it that these 5 new members went to the bank and they tried to mess with the accounts, and the bank froze it because they're just legally covering themselves to be like, I don't know who's authorized on the account. So just from the bank standpoint, it's frozen for now, or did the bank capitulate to
Yeah.
their requests?
You're pretty accurate. So like the one that becomes the board president and the treasurer show up at the bank is my understanding, and they say we are the board. We are the ones with the authority on the bank account. So all transactions need to run through us for approval.
Mm-hmm.
And the bank was like, okay, because typically like boards and like elected positions, responsibilities do go through a transition process.
Mhm.
These people just violated that. And so they didn't have the board resolutions and the signed documents. They just sort of told the bank they did, right? And so, I think that was like on a Friday. And like by Monday, the lawyers at the bank were like, no, this doesn't add up. And so their response was nobody could touch that until the
Okay,
board resolutions and the signatures came.
got you. Okay,
But because of the situation, that was a couple weeks, man,
right.
before that could get done.
I had another question for you too. In their act in firing all 62 of the people that you hired, I would imagine leaving the fire department now with like an absolute skeleton crew. I mean,
Hmm.
there's got to be some type of legality there about them putting members of the community quite literally in
Negligence. Yeah.
danger, some type of negligence or something, by saying like now members of the community are going to go without first responders because they just fired them all. Like,
They like activate
Yeah,
some sort of mutual aid thing, or what?
yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah, you do. That insurance thing, they had shut my department down for like 4 hours, and I had to activate mutual aid.
Were you the
And
only
actually,
department in town? Sorry to cut you off. Were you guys the only like call for service in town?
um, in that district, but
Mm-hmm.
there's four probably departments that surround that,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
and so they did pick up the lift on that. But
Right. Okay. Just curious. Yeah. What the picture is we're looking at. Yeah.
yeah, and actually, I'm glad you brought that because there's a super important thing on that shutdown. So that came June 6th. I was fired June 22nd, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this is the setup that launches it. The insurance calls the president and board. It's like we didn't get paid. Your insurance is going to get canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And then calls me and they're like, we don't have insurance. What do we do? I'm like, well, I can't ask the firefighters. So, like whether they wreck, whether there's malpractice or like liability is liability. That's the world we live in.
Correct.
And so they're like, well, what should we do? And I'm like, I don't pay the bill. Like that's the answer here, right?
Yes.
Um, and again, I know so much more now than I did in the chaos, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what I have found through court discovery was he claims that he got called by the bank or the insurance, I'm sorry, calls the bank, and that's when he finds out that the bank is hard froze. But the emails timestamps between him getting notification and like to the insurance and then like responding back was 11 minutes. So if you've ever called a bank, man, you're not getting somebody on the phone in 11 minutes. But his claim is he called the bank. They were like, oh, the banks are froze the accounts. He hangs up, calls another bank, gets a wire transfer done, and in that time span of 11 minutes. In reality, what happens he gets notified, calls me, and like my oh shit was like you're fucking us right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, he panics and he pays the bill. He wires the money.
Mm-hmm.
An hour and 13 minutes later is when he calls or he emails me back. Shut the fire department down. We don't have insurance. What the fuck happened between when you paid the bill and an hour and 20 minutes? Why are you now saying shut the fire department down?
Right.
And then leaves it close. Like we couldn't respond for something like 4 or 5 hours, and then magically like, oh, we're good. You can respond to calls again. And I think what happened is they knew they were busted for election fraud, and they knew they were busted for bank fraud. So
Wow.
cause something the news will come to.
mm,
Yeah.
And when you shut a fire department down, guess who comes calling?
Yeah. The
Every
mayor.
news
Everybody. Yeah. The
around.
news. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on the news. They kind of spun their thing. They first admitted to it. Oh, there was a misunderstanding at the bank. We own it. It's our fault. Well, 18 days later, when they fired me, that story changed, right? And so, um,
Obviously, we can't assign motive at all or get inside people's
right.
brains, but in looking for a reason and opportunity to fire you, how convenient, let's say, would it have been that during the 4 or 5 hours you were shut down, you thought you were shut down and had no liability coverage, some type of emergency would have happened and the fire department doesn't respond or can't respond because you think you can't. I'm not putting
All
it,
of that is a
I'm not
violation.
putting
Yeah.
it beyond these people at this point to what you've described to me.
Right.
Yeah, and I wouldn't at that time either, man. I was just like, you want to talk about being like, I have very high standards of professionalism, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, they're being
the,
irresponsible with people's lives at this point. They're
yeah,
the people in town are now collateral for these games. It just goes to show you, just there is no length that is too far for us to cover our own ass in the process of this fraud over a fireboard is
hmm
absolutely insane. It sounds like bulwarking a node inside of a grander scheme is what I've been thinking of. Is that there's a pass through here inside this board. You're also dealing with legitimacy and then other powers and the adjacent power that goes into that. It's just like this is again a network, and this is an important piece of this. And the people we're putting in charge of this are going to be able to make decisions that affect a broader scheme. This is like where my brain is going with this. I don't know if that's exactly what is going on, but that's how it feels to me.
oh,
You don't fight for something so insignificant without a real reason. There's
I
not a
was
lot of things that go
yeah,
on.
I'm thinking along the same lines as you, and to your point, Brandon, and it was the first thing that you asked earlier was why did they make such a move so quickly to go get in charge of the bank accounts? And I was thinking the same thing as
yeah,
you when you said that, because I'm like, that's a very brazen thing when if you just sit back for the 2 weeks that it's going to take for the process to play out and just because certainly not the actions of somebody that is fighting to maintain the let's call it the air of legitimacy to their
hmm
election. That's obviously not what these people care
yeah,
about in so much as they care
Duty
about
for
having X.
service and safety, right?
Yeah. hmm
yeah, yeah. I mean, community became pawns, but also, I guess give credit where credit's due. My name is on the document that shuts the fire department down, right? If you don't know the internal policies of the department, I'm the guy that they said was at fault for it,
hmm
right? And I carried that for like 2 years, man. Since I started doing interviews, people from there have reached out like, "Hey, I voted in that. I had no fucking clue what took place. Thank you for outing it." But
Yeah.
um, you want to talk about it only gets crazier from this moment, guys?
Yes.
Let me tell you.
Oh God. Wait, there's
So
more.
remember, this happens June 2023, man.
Yeah.
I'm a single dad. I lose my livelihood. I had a beautiful home on 8 acres in the mountains of Colorado.
Mhm.
Um, and life tumbles, man. Like I literally like
Yes.
I don't know what to do. My daughters are just fucking studs. Like they are so like one of the most important moments of my entire life was I drive home 2 miles to from the station after being fired home.
Mhm.
I had made them aware what the outcome could be. They're teens, you know what I mean? And I walk in and they come running up like daughters do to dads and hug me and they're like, what's that? What happened? And I go, I like reality is hid. Everything that I did, and I put myself in this position on this notion of integrity, right? But
Yes.
and that's the right thing. But in the moment that it falls out from under you, you question that. Was this all a
I think
facade
that's
of like
natural. Yeah.
fake?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like hugging my girls, and I'm just ready to break down. And they're like, "Okay, well, like, what are we gonna do?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I promise you, girls, everything will be okay. And they were like, "Okay." And like, you want to go watch TV? And like the sheer like ease at which they accepted that there was no money and income and the house and food and all that was at stake.
And you're worried about letting them down and being a dad,
Yeah,
man.
they
Yeah.
were just like full faith in me. Like, okay, cool, let's go hang out.
Right.
And like that's whew, that wells stuff up still years later, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
But um, so I call an attorney, man. Like I call all of my firefighters. are fucking amazing too. I literally like 2 days after I get fired, man, I get a random call like, "Hey, come over," uh, to have lunch, and they hand me an envelope with 5 grand cash to retain a lawyer, and they're like, "We're behind you," and I'm like, "Man, that
Okay.
means the world to me." And like this comes with like tears in front of these people because
Of
I'm like,
course.
I've lost everything, and you guys are still standing by me. Um, so I get this attorney, man,
It's a
and
testament to you.
I appreciate that. I think it was again, there's a little small correction. Like it was the group, man. The culture it was like we got each other.
Certainly.
Uh, I mean, I hope that they do. I still love them. I still talk to them. You know what I mean? They're still achieving out there, but um, it's a weird transition from being like the leader that everybody loves and respects to like I'm a nobody now.
Hmm.
That's how you feel, right? My identity wasn't being a fire chief.
Hmm.
Um, my identity is Erik, dad to these 2 girls, and
Right.
whatever. But it feels very, very lonely when you're embarrassed and your livelihood is taken and your career is taken.
Yeah,
And
of
so
course.
it was a big deal to me, man. I felt good, but like I don't know. I still don't think it was like it was just because it was me, right? Like I just think it was the mentality of all of us together. Um,
Well, it's no small thing to say that they purposefully put you through the humiliation ritual and then whitewashed your legacy on the way out the door.
Hmm.
oh yeah, it's
Like
and it
total
wasn't just
reputation
that meeting, and
tarnished.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was over a
Character
year.
assassination.
Yeah, so much like I couldn't find a job for over a year. I had like I'm extremely qualified in fire service. Like I have everything you can imagine. Um, degrees, certifications, all of it, experience, and I would get to like finalists on every job I applied for, and then background checks would happen, right?
Hmm.
Um, but these people didn't just stop at like I was fired and gone, and they stopped. Like for a year solid, every time they had a board meeting, they would read these statements of like made up shit that I had done wrong or they had discovered or like all this stuff. And so it was just constant. Um, the attorney got promised the world as attorneys do, man, right? Like
Right.
the court is so slow. I met with this guy, I handed him $5,000, and they're like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "I want my job back and to go back." I'm like, "Oh, you don't want millions?" I'm like, "No, I want to go back to work and make my $90,000 a year. That's what's important to me and resume my life." That should have never been like something they told me was achievable because I filed my lawsuit in July of 2023. Um, like 3 months goes by before the next thing happens. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, so my lawsuit in the federal court was a First Amendment case, retaliation, right? Mind you, I don't have any job and I'm like interviewing like crazy, traveling wherever I can go to a fire department as a fire chief. Cannot get a job. I end up
Hmm.
selling my home, taking the equity, and basically like, here, attorney, put my life back together for me. I'm giving you all this money. Um, and it after a year, I'm living back in California in my stepdad's backyard in a camper with my girls and my girlfriend. Like life has taken quite a hellacious turn, man.
Right.
So I finally landed a job again, and like we are renting our own home again. And I'll come back to something that happened, but even worse, my only hope is that I will win this federal lawsuit, right? And like my name will be cleared. I can go about my life again. And for for over a year, I couldn't show evidence. Like it's all
Hmm.
procedure, man. It's like I filed my thing. They motioned to dismiss it. I have to fight to keep it alive. All this stuff.
Hmm.
And so after a year and a half, they file this motion for summary judgment and ask the judge to dismiss my case, which the judge grants. And so after $150,000, losing every worldly possession that I have, right, my home and like moving my girls, um, I lose flat. Like I just 9 months from when they filed it until I finally get the order. It's just dead space in life of trying to rebuild. And the judges don't care, right? It's just sitting on their desk of stuff to get to. So after 9 months, I get the order. Summary judgment granted, case dismissed. And like, I was just defeated, man. Um, and that's when Justice for Holt started. Like, my buddy Fregosa, like high school buddy of mine, runs a media company out of St. Louis. And he's like, I was like telling him about it. He's like, dude, don't give up. Tell the story. And I'm like, bro, I've never made a video in my life. He's like, I don't care. Like, walk around, tell the story in 5-10 minute clips until you get through. And I was like, okay, right. So I start doing that. And then there's this another pivotal moment in life where I was sitting having dinner right after losing, right? And my attorney had called that day and said, I think the judge got it wrong. I think you can win appeal. Do you want to do it? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, well, you got to give me $50,000. And I'm like, dude, I don't have a home. I don't have any, like, I don't, what do you want from me? I can't do that. He's like, oh, well, you got like 2 weeks to file it. Appreciate it. Bye. And I'm like,
Wow.
I've given this guy everything I ever had to fight for me. Right. And, that despair was just weighing. And like, so, I'm sure you guys have been in a room where there's teenage girls at some point in your life. uh, they're loud, man. They chat up a storm, right? But I'm like eating dinner and like, you remember like artillery fire or an IED going off, or like you don't have any hearing and it like zones out. That's what it was like, man. I was just sitting there and I couldn't hear them talking. My mind is spinning a million miles an hour. And I was like, there's no fucking way I will let these two girls see me quit. I don't care what it takes. I talked to myself and I answered whatever it took. I was gonna get involved in and see this through, and they're not gonna see me fucking quit. And like the hearing comes back, and I'm just like, all right, man, I had peace. And so that night I started reading case law and going through all sorts of shit, and like I filed the appeal on my own to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, the second highest court in the country. I've never typed a court document in my life, man, and everything's at stake. And so I do it. I read case law, man. I read thousands and thousands of pages of constitutional law and all this stuff and all my case files. And the one thing I skipped over, I hope we're okay on time, guys.
No, you're fine.
We good?
Absolutely.
Okay. What I hadn't discovered until I started doing it on my own is I was fired June 22nd. I filed my lawsuit July 14th. They were served July 26th, 2023. Okay. August 1st, and like as that's happening, like I get an attorney, he files the lawsuit. That's a big moment because that takes a month to get like, okay, it's going to the court, man. And then you got to wait 2 more weeks. Then like I get an email, they've been served. They know they're being sued. Like your world is moving in slow motion, so these time gaps take forever. On August 1st, I was like, okay, they've been served. Life's gonna get put back together. 3 days later, man, August 1st, I get a call. It was the DA's office. And they had been really cool to me. I talked to them, met with them a bunch of different times. All of a sudden, he's like, hey, we're dropping the criminal charges. No file. And I'm like, what? I was standing in my bathroom. I think I just got out of the shower to like grab my phone real quick. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, nobody's being charged. And I'm like, it's on high definition video. What are you talking about? He goes, look, man, you can request the file. Bye. And he hung up on me.
Whoa.
And that devastation was heavy. Because I had just lost my job. This is the one guy that can correct that, And I never knew why. And with everything else going on, like I think when you're trying to survive, there's just certain things out of your control. You just move on real quick. And that was one of them. Like, it got closed. There's got to be some answer. I trust the system. So fast forward, man, I'm doing my 10th Circuit briefs, man. And I mentioned I'm reading thousands of pages of stuff, like just cramming in knowledge. At some point in the day, I had read two separate documents, but in my sleep this one night, I shoot up out of a dead sleep because two facts connected in my sleep. And it was the spelling of the last name Vaughn, okay? VaghA, A-N,
A.
not just
Okay.
N,
Okay.
right? So uh, um, the law firm that I've been litigating against for 2 years is called Vaughn and DeMuro, and it has that unique spelling. And what I had read at some point in the day was all of the investigation files. And in my sleep, thank God for this beautiful retarded brain. But I caught that the guy that dismissed it is named Andrew Vaughn.
Mm.
And I don't know how it connected, man, but I shot up and I wrote down on a piece of paper, like, check the Vaughn thing, and went back to sleep. And the next day I call. There's a Connect Investigations. Dude's awesome. He's out of Evans, Georgia, but he
Mm-hmm.
was like super dope, like spy for the human intelligence world, right?
Mm.
So he has like a PI for him, and I like hit him up. I'm like, hey, can you run these two names and tell me if these are connected? Because I think I'm going crazy. And he sends me a report. He goes, it's father and son. Who are they?
Holy shit.
And I'm like, who are they? It's father and son, but it's lead defense counsel, and the number two at the DA's office are father and son.
That's insane.
And that's really bad, right? But it gets worse because I was like, okay, let me go to my timeline, man. They got served July 26th. Andrew Vaughn's name never appears in the investigation file for 2.5 months. And 3 days after his dad becomes lead defense counsel, he steps in, uses his authority to end a criminal investigation into election violations against his father's clients. And there's no coincidence in that time frame.
Yeah. Where
Um,
where my brain's just like, where is the oversight? It's like this is a totally corrupt rotten apple, right? That's what
yeah,
it is in every turn. That's insane.
it was so that was like this past summer, like August. I find that right,
Mm.
and like um, again, I started telling my story, and like as I can go back to my early interviews before I even discovered that. So
Mm-hmm.
like June, July of this last year, I started doing this stuff and then I found that because I
Mm-hmm.
was documenting this journey to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Um, and this guy Joe Oldman, he's running for governor of Colorado. He's a fucking stud of a guy, man. Everybody, if you live in Colorado and you're conservative, vote for him. He put his arms around me, man, like figuratively, but I reached out to him. I said, I got this crazy story, man. Like he has fought for election integrity, like boots on the ground, hardcore,
Mm-hmm.
against like the voting machines with Mike Lindell. With like he's been through the shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
And he had me on his show, and I was just telling the story just out of desperation. And he helps me get in contact with a friend of his that's an attorney who is like, I don't do constitutional law, but he called this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I called that guy, and he works for Mountain States Legal Foundation. And he's like, we'll set up a meeting with our attorney. He's like, tell us your story. I tell him, they're like, we'll represent you now. So now I have a legal foundation that fights for constitutional rights fighting for me.
Mm-hmm.
March 17th, I'll be in Denver because my oral arguments in front of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals on my case will be heard. That's huge, man. It's been over a year
Hell
since
yeah.
I filed the appeal. So that, unfortunately, you get 30 minutes, I think, of total arguments, and then you leave and you wait until you get a decision on it. But I'm very confident in my case because there's been some recent stuff. But I'm still literally uncovering more shit. So I text you, Brandon, like
Mm-hmm.
literally last night, man. When I had discovered that in like September, let's say,
Yeah.
about the father and son, like I reached out to the DA himself, and I'm like, I just discovered this. Like, make this right. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And he
Yeah.
pretends to do an investigation, kicks the can a little bit, and then I get a call that like, oh, they don't see nothing. Nothing can be found, right? Um, well, the guy that when I had gotten all these open records requests, like I didn't know who the players are, right? But the guy that called me and was just being an ass, and it's recorded on my social media again. I go back to the open records request emails, and he's being invited to lead defense counsel's parties, right? So they're all tight knit.
Mm-hmm.
So last night, after almost 4 months, it's been over like 3 or 4 months, I put another more in-depth open records request into the DA's office.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I want all communications related to this case number in this time span with Vaughn and DeMuro Law and anybody at the DA's office.
Mm-hmm.
And they stalled and stalled. I have like dozens for weeks on end. I'm like, hey, still haven't heard back. And they're just barely, oh, we're working on it. So last night I got it. And even to this day, man, with everything I've told you in the story, I still get shocked by things. But in 2023, right after that call where they ended the criminal investigation,
Mm-hmm.
a records request was submitted to have the investigation file released.
Okay.
Nobody else had done that, but the guy that was looking into why, right? And in the emails back and forth, it starts with their internal procedures. Hey, we just received this. Can you review this file? Make sure that it's legally all allowed, right? You got to
Mm-hmm.
redact if there's victims' names or kids or. So it goes through that internal, right? And then all of a sudden, hey, send this file over to Vaughn and DeMuro to look at. Mind you, I'm the one that requested it. And they leave me on red
Mm-hmm.
for almost 3 weeks. Well, they let defense counsel at the same time that they're answering my federal lawsuit, they're being sent the investigation files to review before I can get access to them.
Colluding.
As the whistleblower, as the one
Mm-hmm.
that came forward. And so I literally now have discovered as of last night, the DA's office is colluding with and throwing softballs to the people I've been suing for all this time. So
This deserves so much national attention. Like if this is going on in this small community, it makes you wonder the sophistication of grander schemes elsewhere, right? Like this is no small feat to pull that off in a small place. But if you can get that sophisticated in a small area like that, man, there is no telling. Like there are so many probably cases like yours that people just have no idea about because somebody, like you said, you're talking to yourself, I'm not gonna let my daughter see me quit. Maybe somebody doesn't have the support system or like isn't a parent the way you're not gonna let your kids down, and they just stop because they're like, fuck, dude, everywhere I go is a wall. People are colluding against me. Maybe my life's at risk, or you're worried about it. Like the persistence you have is not the norm for most people. So how many other things like this are there? Like your story deserves the national attention. Like this is insane.
100%.
I appreciate it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's just dad rage, man. I'm not, or patriotic rage or whatever you want to call it.
I think it's righteous. I think what you're doing is righteous.
Completely
And I was
righteous.
going to say it's igniting like a fire in me. All fire words puns absolutely intended for your situation. Ignited.
You're gonna have curls soon, man.
I'm working on it if I can get on your level, dude. But no, I was just saying like this whole thing is lighting a fire in me too, because the powers that be and anybody that works inside of the system, and especially anybody that leans toward being corrupt, they absolutely understand that the process can be the punishment. And they know how to utilize that, and that path is well devved out and set up, and that's exactly what they were hoping to stonewall you and just discourage you into just being quiet and going away. But the one thing that they don't know about the veteran community is that we can stay retarded a lot longer than they can stay wealthy and in power, and that's just the way that it is about
true.
veterans, dude.
I know.
Like we absolutely can. But the thing that is firing me up so much about your story, and we say it here on this podcast all the time, is like we are the backup that we've been waiting for. And you're doing the total David and Goliath thing of being like, you know what, you could have given up at any point when you got discouraged or hit your second, third, fourth stone wall, or lost your attorney, lost your means to hire more representation because it's like, again, the process is the punishment, but you're like, you know what, if I have to file it myself, damn it, I'll file it myself, and I'll be an expert at becoming an expert about things. Case law, bet I'll read that. And I love everything
Yeah.
about what you're doing, man, and you're such a, what you're going through and the way that you're going about it is an inspiration to a thing that we try to present all the time, and that citizenship is not passive. And you took that all into your
Right,
own
that's
hands,
true.
man. You took the ball in your own hands and you're running with it. And I hope you get the justice and success that you deserve from
Well,
all
can
the
I
work
just
that you're
build on
putting
that real
into.
fast, Chris,
Yeah.
before you say something about it? Because what you just did is you proved that you, as a normal citizen, can go and you have the ability here in this country to access information, file these things to get this information, that you can go and learn. You learn about case law, you learn about constitutional law. Like these are occupations in it. This is information that people we pay to do, like you did, right? Professionals to go and do this
Yeah.
stuff for us. And you went and did it yourself. And that this is exactly what anybody could do, but just doesn't, right? And then this is how cool this country is, that you can essentially, this is a lot of work, right? Like, and you're paying for it, right? But like, this is
Yeah.
what you are able to do, is have access to information, and then you have all of this abundance that you can learn from, and then take this into your own hands and act on it, right? Like, no one's saying it's easy, no one is saying it's not
Yeah.
stressful, but that is, to me, it's like, this is, we're talking about how fucked up all this stuff is, and like how fucked up the state is, and things like nationally, but like at the same time, this is still functioning over here as well, right? Like, you can do this on your
Good
own.
point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of points from what you guys just said. For you, Chris, the system is designed to fuck you, man. So
Mhm.
I gave everything I had to that attorney. I've told you my story. That attorney is suing me for more money right now. So I'm fighting in the Tenth Circuit. I'm fighting against the individuals in pro se, representing myself in the state court, and now my attorney says I owe them 50,000 more, so they're suing me. But sometimes you just have to be too stupid to give up, right? Like,
Mhm.
so I looked at it, I was like, oh, cool, he's suing me. Now I get more reps in court because I have this bigger thing going. And so it's just like, like if you're just resilient, like, again, I'm sure somebody's sitting going, what the fuck? Like, why won't this guy go away? Because
Mhm.
I'm growing too. Like, my social media is, growing and more people are hearing the story. And when I get to tell it, people are like, no, nobody's turned away from me when I tell it. And like everything I've told you is backed up by video evidence, documents, everything that I put on social media. So
Thank
I
God you have
think,
it.
yeah, I mean, luckily I do, right? Like I preserved everything really well. Resiliency is equal to stupidity, I think, man. Just be too dumb to know what quitting is, and just like, it's just not an option. But I want to touch on something important, right? I think everybody. I started on the back end opposite. Everybody looks at presidential, national elections, and believe me, there's plenty of evidence of wonkiness,
Mhm.
but that's all they care about, right? I've discovered through
Mhm.
my journey, because when I started, man, I watched this and I said, nobody gives a shit about a local election. I wouldn't even vote in a local election.
Mhm.
And then reality hit, man. And you know where school boards are getting taken over and your kids are being fed, go be tranny and
Mhm.
do this and do that, and they're force fed this agenda, is locally. And this is where 99% of our lives actually are dictated around, as these
Yep.
local elections.
Yes.
And so I started on a fight that I was like, nobody's going to care about, nor did I. And then I started looking, man, and I'm like, oh, what are other local elections?
Mhm.
Fire departments, police, water and utilities, schools,
Yep.
and libraries. Holy shit, man! That is encompasses 90% of the livelihood and safety of my own children, and the education that is steering them in a direction I don't agree with. And now I'm super passionate about local elections.
This
Um,
is exactly, dude. this is something we talk about all the time. Like, you are so focused on the national thing that you don't even realize you're losing the war because you're losing battles in your own backyard that you didn't even know were going on. Right? How many people can say like they know who an AOC is or Ron DeSantis, all these like nationally public figures? Who's on your school board, man? Like, how many people could tell you like this person is a state rep or the mayor of your town? Right? Nobody. Like, that's, I would say it's a lot less. And it is. These are the fights that matter. Like, these are just as important or more important because this is these state local policies what drive, like you said, your life, the things that you're able to do in town. It's just, this is the most important thing. It really is.
Well, to your story directly, Erik, like part of what got wrapped up in this is the people in your small town and community went without fire first response for 4 or 5 hours due to the way that this thing played out. Like, directly affected their lives that day.
Yeah, well, they'll never have the level of service that we had created. I mean, that's unequivocal. They'll never get back to that. Um,
Yeah, and then the fallout. Yeah.
yeah, the money. Like, if I win a lawsuit against these people, it's the taxpayers and insurance that pay. These actual people will never pay for what they did because back to the election thing. If I can catch it on 4K high definition video with audio,
Right.
document it, hand that over, gift wrap to a prosecutor, and it's not important for one person to be even fined, charged, arrested, any of it. What what do our laws matter, man?
Right.
What is election integrity when it's literally caught on high definition?
Right.
And I will say, please go to my social media to everybody that listens and see those videos for yourself. Because somebody in your life's going to say this is all bullshit, conspiracy theory, and you can steer them right back to no, it's not. It's right here on high definition film.
Well, what you just said is like when everybody talks about crime or catching people doing something wrong, it's like, man, I wish I had that on camera. And even that metric is not enough because it's
Yeah,
not.
clearly not.
It's not about evidence. It's about who has power. Like with anything, it doesn't matter if you're in the right. It doesn't matter if you have evidence. If somebody's in charge who is corrupt or doesn't want to solve that problem, nothing is going to happen. Just like anything else. Just like anything else.
Yeah, or so that DA, not the guy that dismissed it, but the head boss, he's running for state attorney general currently, right? So it might have just been politically inconvenient for him in his district to have an election fraud case, right? And that's enough to like be corrupt, man.
Yeah.
But that's my story, man. That's everything. Can I
That's.
plug my websites and stuff?
Oh yeah. Please, absolutely.
Cool. Well, for this, we launched justiceforholt.com so that I can just refer everybody to go to there. Um, I'm trying to pay for being sued, so if anybody out there can support on the GoFundMe, I would really appreciate it. I'm a veteran who's very prideful. It has not been easy for me to ask for that, but I'm being sued by the attorney that I paid. So if I can get out from under that, I can focus more on the case. So Justice for Holt on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and justiceforholt.com.
Erik,
Yeah.
I was thinking about something listening to your whole story, and being a Bible believing guy. It reminded me of the Old Testament story of Joseph. The idea that, everybody meant this for your evil, but God meant it for your good. And I hope that through the fight that you're going through, like, I hope that for you, that like I want you to get all the justice that is owed you as a U.S. citizen, success, and then through you, I hope that success also translates to your community and to your state, and ripples out into some of these other corrupt individuals, and like they're torn down because of it. Like, I really do, and I'm happy that we got to have you on,
Yeah.
and I hope that we're able to promote that and help you affect that type of change. I really do.
I appreciate it, man. I don't know what's next in it, but I am a anti-corruption crusader at this point, man. And
I
I
completely.
have made contact with people that have other stories, man. So I am trying to figure out that next wave, and I appreciate it, man. Guys like you, like nobody else, legacy media won't have me on. Nobody will write newspaper article on the corruption, man. So dudes like you that give people a voice, are the only line of defense left, man, and people willing to not quit. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm indebted to you, gentlemen. I appreciate you, man. The fight ain't over. It's gonna keep going until we figure out that resolve. But
Well,
they fuck with the wrong guy.
yeah, there are people that I mean, it's not like I know anybody way up the chain or whatever, but I'm able to reach out to people and who can have you on their show. And then I do know a few people in media that are on TV often, actually. So I'm going to see if they're interested in hearing your story and maybe bringing some national attention to it. But I just, this is, if this could happen to you, this could quite literally happen to anybody. And not everybody is going to have, that retard veteran brain strength, whatever you want to call it, like we've been joking about, to persist the way you do. And so there are so many other people, I'm sure, who have been screwed over and treated this way and had their lives ruined by just pure greed or hubris or tribalism, like you were saying, that need to hear this story, because this is exactly the sort of thing that's going on all over the country. And these people will stop at absolutely nothing, literally destroying your life. Don't care that you're a parent, don't care that you have children, nothing, right? Preventing you from finding work. Like, I hope that you're able to recoup a whole year's worth of, fire chief salary at the very least for that, and on top of 100 other things that you're owed. Like, it's just, these are the sorts of stories that need the actual attention, not whatever somebody's fucking wearing at the Grammys or whatever. So it's crazy.
I'm believe me, I hope that I get back what I've lost. I mean, you'd be an idiot to say like you don't want that, right?
Mm-hmm.
My career is over. I don't work in the fire service anymore. I know that this story sounds bad, and I know that it sounds like I've been beat down, because I have.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been blessed beyond measure, and I am so grateful for that. And Chris, back to your biblical stuff. Isaiah 6:8 has always, since this started, like, rides with me, man, because I was not ready, but send me. And that is where I'm at, because I didn't know what this journey would be 3 years ago when it began. Nor do I know what tomorrow will be, but I know I've made progress. I know that because people are hearing it, man, and if they'll rise up in their local community. We actually have an American society and a fabric of what we actually are and identity if we do that. And, the punk decision that I could have made, I think gets made too often. And that's why we've lost a lot of what our forefathers died for.
Mm-hmm. If I could just make one final comment on this, J.R.R. Tolkien, he's talked a lot about his books and the things in the why he's written those things. And one of the themes in his stories, obviously, is when men do nothing to prevent their own downfall, and that it's the normal everyday things that allow it to slip away from you and allow it to fall into the hands of evil people. And that's a theme in his book, is that just everyday people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you hear one of the stories in Return of the King, he talks about just, well, how did this happen? And it's, he's talking about Gondor specifically, and you learn, right, like the gates of Mordor actually used to be the gates of Gondor, and they're not anymore. And then you talk, later in the book, they talk about letting go of Osgiliath, and, well, we're just going to retreat back, and that's what it is. It's this retreat when the brinkmanship game is being played against you, that you just give up all these little things. And it's one person after another relinquishing their duties and their responsibilities. And you don't have to be a leader for that to have an impact. You are just a citizen, like you said earlier, that you filed for that request as Erik Holt. You don't have to be somebody big. You don't have to be even a fire chief or anything bigger than that, and you have these powers that are vested in you as a citizen in this country, the rights that you're afforded and enshrined in the Constitution to do these things. A simple man can not relinquish his responsibilities and duties and hold that line. And Tolkien talks about that in Return of the King, that's how the world of man slipped into evil, is because they stopped doing the normal everyday things, and they just shrunk back away from duty. And that's why evil was able to take over Middle Earth. It's just that analogy, right, that I didn't do a very good job describing probably, but that's what you're doing. You know, you're standing in the gap, as it were, just as a person, and that's all it takes, man. More often than not, is somebody just to stand there. And I hope that you have enough people around you now to support you, and that the attention that you're getting on doing, you know, bigger shows and all of that brings you that justice. But it's just normal people, man. That's it. That's all you got to do, is just fucking have a sense of duty and just go and stand there. And it's just, I have a lot of respect for you, man. Not a lot of people would do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man. I think any man and or dad or husband or whatever put in the same. I'm not unique. I've just been challenged in the right way. That I'm so dug in, man. And victory comes in. That is the victory. Everything else. When I talk about being rewarded, man, and blessed, my character is stronger. Nobody can ever question my integrity. I'm a better dad. I'm a better friend. A better patriot than I was 3 years ago. And you know, fuck the rest, man. Like, that's the victory. And all I had to do was start telling the story. And that was the win. So I appreciate you guys, man. So much. I thank you, Adam. I know you'll listen. You know, he's running for Congress. He'll be a stud of a congressman. So vote for Gabe. Vote for Joe Altman. Get active. Be a good patriot, man. Be a good fucking American.
Yeah. I don't think there's a better note to finish on, man. So like I said, I appreciate your time. Justiceforholt.com, right?
Yep.
Awesome, brother.
Thank you, gentlemen.